What's up, everyone? Sound check. I hope everything is working accordingly. All right, welcome to my YouTube channel. I will be breaking down a trade that I took today on USD JPY. I will show you what I go through, the steps that I take to arrive at my trade. I will show you the trade in a bit. In a bit, and this is the trade that I took today, and I'm currently in that trade as we speak. All right, so one of the things that we're going to get into is that we are going to talk about charting and how I got to my bias and how I got to my entry and my thoughts overall. All right, so first things first is that we are on the weekly chart. All right, I tend to look for bias from the higher time frames. All right, I will look for bias on the higher time frame. So I will explain a bit what has been happening on the XY. First and foremost, we tapped into this fair value gap right here, and then we mitigated the fair value gap right here. All right, we didn't mitigate this fair value gap right here, and then this is our supply zone as well. It's a really big area. All right, and this is the top of our fair value gap right here, this line right there. So what happened? All right, this is one of my thoughts on fair value gaps. All right, so this is a fair value gap. It has been mitigated by this high right here. Okay, so what I usually do is the high, the swing point that mitigates a fair value gap, has got a bunch of liquidity, resting above it. All right, so if a fair value gap does not push price lower, the swing point that mitigates the fair value gap is a source of liquidity to push the market further lower. All right, so on this higher time frame, I am trying to understand what my bias is. All right, what is the market trying to do? Are we bearish? Are we bullish? What are we doing? All right, I am going to mark out on the higher time frame what we are currently doing. So for example, this candle is not in existence. Oh, sorry, let me go on the weekly. So on the monthly chart, we can see that price was moving in a downtrend. We are bearish, so to say. So we are bearish. All right, so this is us being bearish on the monthly time frame as well. We can see it on the weekly time frame. All right, we are bearish. So upon being bearish, it is safe to say that we would be looking for sells, but I entered a buy and not a sell position. All right, so previously last week we did leave this fair value gap right here. Do you see this fair value gap right there? All right, we did create this fair value gap right there. This is 2 weeks back. All right, and then we did sting into the fair value gap right here, this fair value gap with this candle right here, but we did disrespect this fair value gap with this huge impulsive candle right there, and we did close above the fair value gap. All right, and then the next candle open, we found support. We found support on this fair value gap right here on this candle. It opened, tapped into that. We were looking for a premium array that would push price a little bit lower. I was looking to sell off of this fair value gap right here. Let me just show you on the daily what it looks like. All right, so this is the gap on the daily. I wasn't expecting price to reverse right here. This is the close of the candle high, the previous one, the weekly candle. Remember, we started trading above the weekly close right here. into this fair value gap right there, or others might argue this demand zone right there, the supply zone right there. All right, the last up candle before the down move and all that. Yeah, so it can be all that right there. All right, so we came into that and we rejected off of it. All right, and then we also took, remember what I told you, we also took that high off of this zone and we went lower. All right, we went lower, and we are currently creating bearish price action because there is a fair value gap right here, a daily fair value gap right there. All right, there's a daily fair value gap right there. So remember, we are saying we are bearish. Number one, we are bearish. All right, we are currently respecting this price leg. All right, what makes it a price leg? It is a swing high and a swing low with a fair value gap inside of it. Let me show you on the weekly time frame. All right, there we go. So this swing high and this swing low, and it has got a fair value gap in between. So this is a price leg. All right, there is a price leg and a liquidity leg. So this is what we are dealing with right here. So we are expecting price to go lower, quite all right, but we did disrespect this fair value gap that was supposed to push price lower. Instead, we respected a daily fair value gap that pushed price lower into a new bullish fair value gap right here. All right, the narrative or the context was we are bearish, yes, all right, but the PDRA on the higher time frame, the weekly time frame that is supposed to push price lower, failed to push price lower. Instead, we disrespected it, and on a weekly fair value gap was created. A new weekly fair value gap was created right here. All right, so this disrespect and a new creation of a fair value gap has somewhat made us to shift in bias from bearish to bullish. All right, to bullish. Why? Number one, we have disrespected this bearish fair value gap. All right, and we have created a new fair value gap, weekly fair value gap. According to some mentors that I do follow, this is a sharp turn. All right, fair value gap in, fair value gap out. All right, that is a sharp turn right there. So this makes everything so attractive, you know, in the sense that we can take a buy off of this weekly fair value gap. All right, of this weekly fair value gap. So right here I am bearish, yes, because in the long term we are quite bearish, but I can also take a quick trade in a bullish direction. All right, I can choose to take a trade in a bullish direction. So for me, on this particular week, I would be bullish. All right, I will be bullish, and if we can close quite bullish on this, you know, week right here, I would target these highs right there. All right, as for now, we're not really changing the narrative of being bearish, but this week we can trade off of this weekly fair value gap because we can surely expect a rejection off of it. All right, so on DXY, our analysis is we're going to take some buys on any USD pair that has USD as the base. All right, base quote. All right, So we are kind of bullish on US dollar, you know, not long term but short term. All right, because we are still very much bearish right here. We can see the bearish price action right here that is taking place right here. Bearish fair value gaps being respected, and we are breaking structure, you know, this break of structure here, break of structure here, and we are expecting a break of structure right there. But for now, we can as well capitalize on this sharp turn. All right, so we're not 100% saying we're going to be bullish. The way how we close above this one is going to determine if we're now bullish or not. We're not marrying the bearish bias, but somehow we can say we are like 50-40%, you know, sure that we can go higher. All right, cool. So unless we start trading above this high, then we can really marry the bullish bias. All right, but for now we can take somewhat bullish buys and whatnot, because we are somewhat respecting the weekly fair value gap, but we are not going all out, but we can capitalize on that move. All right, so it is said, we are saying that our bias on DXY is bullish. All right, as of this week. Cool. So let me show you my trade that I took today on USD JPY. Yeah, right here, and how I got to that trade. Okay, so cool. So this is USD JPY. We said we are bullish on USD, right? So anything or any currency that has USD right in the front there is going to be bullish. It's going to be buying. All right, so now we're going to take time to analyze the market. Okay, we're going to take time to analyze the market and capitalize off of it. All right, cool. So right here we can see the price is moving and building up momentum right there. It's building up momentum right here. All right, so all of this, it's like the market is building up momentum. All right, this is a lot of noise. Yep, I get it, it's a lot of noise, but the market did give us a really good weekly fair value gap right here. All right, it did give us a weekly good fair value gap right there. It's a lovely weekly fair value gap right there. And the other thing that we also did that we can appreciate is that we did close above this high right here. All right, we did break structure right here, and we did close above that high right there. Okay, we did close above that high. And then the other thing that we can also appreciate is that we kind of how would I put it, we kind of have a bullish, oh yeah, we have a bullish price leg right here, a price leg forming right there. All right, so this is our bullish price leg right there. Okay, price leg high. Okay, so that's our price leg high right there. Yeah, I'm not sure I love the color, but yeah, we'll stick with that. I don't want to make this too long. All right, so just like DXY, price has been bearish, not really quite a beautiful type of bearish now, because this is ugly price action, and we never really took out this low, but we did reverse to the upside. All right, and now we have created this weekly fair value gap. So I'm gonna go lower in time frames just to understand what is going on. So we're gonna open up the daily time frame, and we're gonna analyze the daily time frame right here. All right, so if I am bullish on DXY. Where am I going to enter my buys from? All right, so this is the weekly fair value gap right here that was not filled up. All right, and we are trying now to find a position, a bullish position or a buy position on the lower time frames. All right, so on the daily time frame, there's nothing much that we can talk about on the daily time frame. There is this small fair value gap right here, which makes this a price leg low and a price leg high. All right, so this has to be protected, because if we are quite bullish, this low right here has to be protected. All right, it has to be protected. We can either wick this low and turn back, but we cannot, like, sweep this low. Right, we cannot, like, how can I say, we cannot run this low. All right, we can only sweep this low for the liquidity that is down here, because remember what we said, this is a fair value gap, a daily fair value gap, right? And this is a swing that mitigated it. So there's a bunch of orders right here resting down there. All right, there's a bunch of orders resting right here. We can either wick this, take the liquidity there and close above it, all right, and begin to move a little bit higher. I'm sure with other pairs that like are in sync with USD JPY wicked this low, I should find a pair. I'm sure it would be there. All right, so on the daily time frame, there's nothing much to look at really, and we can also go for the 4-hour time frame. All right, cool. So now we are looking at the 4-hour time frame. Very cool. All right, first of all, we are in this weekly fair value gap right here. All right, that is our weekly fair value gap, and this should be like this should be our Monday. Let me just do this 1 hour. This is what I like to do on the 1 hour. Okay, so this is our Monday right here. All right, this is our Monday, this is our Tuesday, and this is our Wednesday. We are expecting a reversal on Wednesday, because we did tap into this fair value gap on Tuesday, and Wednesday grabbed liquidity. All right, Asian liquidity right here, and we have seen our 1 hour build up. All right, bullish build up right there. All right, so rule number 1, after we sting into the fair value gap, it is not reason enough to enter a trade. We still need liquidity, to go in our direction, and we also need alignment. All right, we need alignment. We cannot maybe go higher on a Monday, we cannot go higher on a Tuesday, but we can reverse on a Wednesday. Most of the trades or reversals happen either on a Tuesday or Wednesday. All right, so it is safe to expect a reversal on a Wednesday. All right, cool. So today is on a Friday, but I will show you how you would have traded on a Wednesday or on a Thursday. All right, so you would have used session liquidity. In this time frame, I usually like to use session liquidity. All right, I love using session liquidity in like the 1 hour and the 15 minutes and whatnot. All right, I like to use session liquidity. So back to the 4 hour. There's something that I want to show you on the 4 hour. Okay, so this is what I saw. We took out liquidity there. All right, let me just bring this back, and we did create a fair value gap right here. All right? We did create a fair value gap right there. We did sting into this fair value gap, but we did create another fair value gap the next day right here. All right, not only that, we broke structure right there. We broke structure right there. All right, making this a valid order block. What the hell? All right, making this a valid order block right there. This whole thing right there, it's a valid order block. Some might call it an order block. I would call it a fair value area, and some would call it a mitigation block. Who cares? Yeah, so that is the block that I was looking at. All right, so this is how I stacked up my confluence. The reason I did not use the wick of this body is because it is not overlapping with any fair value gap. All right, so we use the body candles. All right, so we got a fair value gap right there, and we also have a fair value area right there. So number one, we can see that we are building up bullish price action. First of all, we did sting into this weekly fair value gap, and we also took out this 4-hour low right here. Okay, we closed above it, we closed below but closed inside, and we also created a fair value gap. The next candle, you know, stung into this fair value gap, and we went bullish. All right, and then this is our new day open right here. All right, this is our Friday candle right there. So what did our Friday candle do? Let's go back to the 1 hour. So on Friday, I'm expecting an open, low, high, close. All right, I'm expecting open, manipulation, and distribution right here. All right, that is what I'm expecting to happen today on a Friday. All right, so we reversed on a Thursday, Wednesday, on a Wednesday, and we're expecting to close higher. All right, cool. So we're going to mark out our power of 3 right here. This is our open, that is our open right there. All right, what is below our open? What can we sting into? First of all, we have this 1 hour fair value gap. A newbie would use this 1 hour fair value gap right here as what we are aiming for. But remember, a higher time frame above the current time frame you are on has more power or more prominence over the other. So this fair value gap right here, you remember this fair value gap? This is a 4 hour fair value gap. All right, it is more stronger than this fair value gap right here. Okay, so before you use a fair value gap in your current time frame, check if there's no higher time frame fair value gap above it. All right, so this would have been a wrong fair value gap to trade off of. All right, that's why I waited for price to drop a little further into this fair value gap right here. All right, so after our open, there's what I like to use also is session liquidity. All right, that is my open right there. I love to use what we call session liquidity. All right, so this session liquidity is Asian session liquidity. So we printed Asian session liquidity right here, and it was the base of the fair value gap. It was perfectly lining up with my fair value area plus my fair value gap, this really small gap right there, this gap right here. Let me change maybe the color. Let's make the color, maybe let's do red. All right, let's do red. All right, cool. So let me make it a a little bit bigger. So that line represent this small line, and this big line right here represents the fair value gap. All right, so now in these smaller time frames, I love to use session liquidity. All right, I love to use session liquidity. We did take Asian liquidity right here. We did take Asian liquidity right there. So Asian liquidity has been taken right there. We have taken our Asian liquidity that is perfectly lining up with the fair value gap, which is also perfectly lining up with this fair value area right here. All right, so let me just turn off one or two things so that things don't really look messy right now. Okay, all right, so we know that we have got our Asian liquidity right here. All right, and we all know that we've got our fair value gap below there, and we also know that we've got our fair value area right there. All right, so it's perfect confluence right there. And now the most important thing is the entry. All right, the entry. So for me, I entered off of liquidity. There are so many ways that you can enter the after you do your homework. There's so many ways you can enter the market. All right, so many ways. Number one, I wasn't expecting price to come below these lows right here. All right, I wasn't expecting price to come below these lows because this was a really strong area. Quite all right, it was a really strong area. I never entered right here. No, I waited for my London, all right, London session to start, which is right here, right there. All right, so after this happened, I waited for this to happen. We opened, all right, right here. And I saw this wonderful rejection here, and I saw this rejection as this candle closed, and there was absolutely no reason for me not to enter the market. All right, you can wait for more confirmation. You can wait for more confirmation, but the market has, number one, the liquidity and the support to go higher. And it has manipulated many people out of the position already, all right, of the trade already. So I do not see any reason not to enter. All right, I do not see any reason not to enter. So this is my open, low, and high, and I am expecting the close. I can close right here, but I wanted to knock off from work and then show you as it is live as when I entered. All right, so I'm going to be closing, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna keep going higher. So yeah, that is how I caught this trade right here. All right, that's how I got this trade right there. And then for you guys that want to enter off the lower time frames that need more confirmation, I got you. All right, so this is the fair value gap. All right, so this is the candle that took out liquidity. All right, it took out liquidity right here, and before it took out liquidity, this is the fair value gap that happened right here. All right, so it took out liquidity. Now for you, I'm going to show you two type of entries. So this last fair value gap right here, you're going to wait for it to be disrespected and for price to find support right on top of that, and you're going to put your stop loss right there. All right, but this has to happen after that, your 02 mark, London. All right, this would have been your entry. Like, look at the zero drawdown right there. Zero drawdown. All right. And then for other guys that are more into ICT and whatnot, this guy right here would have been your perfect entry right there. Oh, sorry. Right there. That would have been your entry right there. All right. So why not this fair value gap right here? All right. I always wait for like the second fair value gap in the direction that I'm willing to trade. So this is the first fair value gap in the direction I'm willing to trade. This is the second fair value gap. All right. And this looked more cleaner. All right. This looked more cleaner, and it gave me more confirmation because I would enter off of this one, because we are at the same time about to disrespect this fair value gap right there. All right. So the other entry would have been right there. Do you see that? Right there. And your stops would have been right there. All right. And you would have done your 1 2 3. You'd have been out of this trade a long time ago, in just like, little minutes there. So this is like 5 10. Oh no, I don't know how many hours that would have been. Yeah. So this is the trade that I took. Hope you guys have learned 1 or 2 things. It is live right here. So yeah, ciao. Subscribe, and I can teach you 1 or 2 things more. Yeah, I got a lot up my sleeve. Yeah, so this is probably going to be my first video. Yeah, recording. So it's not really that cool, but yeah, it is what it is.